What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode, the third episode today of Chicago Bears Central. We got more updates after a press conference from Matt Eberflus. We got updates on how much the starters are going to play in the last preseason game coming up Saturday. We also have updates to what's going on with Larry Borom and Tevin Jenkins and how the head coach and other coaches do feel about them anchoring that right side of the offensive line. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
All right, Bears fans. So one of the biggest updates that we got in the press conferences that happened today is that the starters for the Chicago Bears are going to play up to the first half. Now, there are going to be some select starters that do not play as many snaps as others, but for the most part, we will see the starters and Roquan Smith out there for the last preseason game up to a half. Now, this could be huge for the Chicago Bears in a degree, right? The starters have played very limited snaps up until now. So considering, the changes on that offensive line, considering, having more weapons out there, Roquan Smith being out there on the defensive end, and also on the offensive end, we got Velus Jones back. And maybe wanted to take a look at what him, EQ, and Darnell Mooney all look out there with Cole Kmet also being there and playing in his first preseason game in the second game as well. Just everything. They want to take an extended look at this offensive at the offensive starters leading into the first regular season game as they just prepare and continue to look at see what they can do to continue to just build out this team, to improve the team and things like that. This is huge, right? I have been on record. I said even in one of the episodes earlier today, I did not expect to see very much from the starters in the third preseason game, just thinking that the coaching staff was going to want to, stave off the chance of injuries. We had a lot of little nagging injuries to players over the first two preseason games, so I thought that they may want to avoid that, but it seems like no, the starters will play the first half. Like I said, some starters are going to play less snaps than others, but look for them to play around 25 to 30 plays on Saturday's game against the Cleveland Browns. So, hey, this could be huge. Like we got players making their debut, like a Roquan Smith. We got players who haven't played very many snaps, haven't been going to, and we do need to see an extended look. Now, I thought I always try to stave off from saying that as a fan, because we know while we don't get to see very much of them, this coaching staff sees a lot of them. But with all that being said, it's going to be pretty big. It's going to be pretty big to see the starters play that much. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a post-game show after the game on Saturday, so be on the lookout for that because we're going to break everything down and talk about it. And so this press conference overall was really good for Matt Eberflus, just to hear him talk about it, talk about the plans for the team, how they view certain things. And one of the things that came out about this was the confidence in Larry Borom and Tevin Jenkins on the right side. As far as Tevin Jenkins, Coach Eberflus had this to say. He did a good job in the game. He played a solid game. You think about that for a second, coming in there for a couple of days and then starting in there and playing. We're impressed. He did a nice job. Now he's got to continue to grow at that position like everybody else on the team. He's got a lot to work on, but he had a good first outing out there. And that's what we've been saying. Me, Bobby, C-Dub, and what you said, just lock in that offensive line because you want this offensive line to take their lumps together. You want them to grow together. You want them to kind of figure it out. And it seems like that's what the coaching staff feels as well. And, there's always been big confidence in Tevin Jenkins, reportedly. Like, outside of the doubt at the time where, there was the rumor that the Bears may be looking to move him and things like that, Matt Eberflus, they said from the beginning, once he came back, the coaches said he's coming in here and we expect him to be competing for a starting spot. He did that. He came in, he won that starting spot, and he did good at it in his first outing. Now, as far as Larry Borom, while the path to being a starter has seemed a little bit easier for him, Matt Eberflus had this to say about Borom. He's been consistent, he's been relatively consistent, and he's doing a good job in there. Right now, he's in that position as a starter, and that's got a competition behind him, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if he can sustain that execution all the way through. So what that basically means, and what the way I take that from, is that, yeah, he's the starter right now. They're both the starters right now, but it's always going to be a competition. They're always going to be continually reevaluating and evaluating and reevaluating that position and how they're doing, what's the growth out there. If another player offers them a better opportunity as the season goes along for more success, that's what you want from your head coach. You don't want them to come in and just say, hey, no, they're just the starter. Earn that position. Earn it every down, every game, every day in practice. And that's what Matt Eberflus is setting for these young players on that offensive line, is continually earning that starting position with the way that you play. Now, he started to say this, where it says about their starting jobs. He said, there's a lot that can happen. Like we said, we're changing combination, adjusting combination. And as you've seen over the course of training camp, a lot of things have changed. There's a lot of adjustments going on. So it's about guys that can sustain performance, that can sustain execution, and that then take that to the first week. So we'll let that play out and see where it is. Listen, I love it. I love the spirit of competition. I've always said in every sport, not just football, when you bring in competition, you see the best out of people. And that's what Matt Eberflus has done. He came into training camp after the first, week of training camp, saw that, hey, we need to bring in it was OTAs. We need to bring in some veterans. They did that. They brought in veterans. And that's what it boils down to. It is what it is, period. And as this coaching staff continues to evaluate and try to find the best combinations, to try to build starters, to try to see what diamonds in the rough could they potentially have, they are making the right decisions by trying things out, but always making them continually earn that starting position. Now, some of the other things that we found out, the Bears will do a mock game this week at Haize Hall. So, leading into the last preseason game, that again makes sense. And everything with where everything stands, the starters playing up to the first half, the offensive line kind of being set in, but not set in a way that is in stone. They're going to continually reevaluate it. That's everything that you want to see. We've heard great things about players. Secondary coach James Rowe had this to say about Kyler Gordon. We'll see to it. I mean, he moves different than most people. Whenever he's around the ball, you feel like he's going to make something happen. There is a lot of confidence around the players on the Chicago Bears team. Now we'll see if that confidence pays off and how that translates to wins or victories on the field and better play on the field. But at the end of the day, everything is happening the way that everything needs to happen, period. And that's what I feel. That's what I enjoy about the Chicago Bears team. Let me know down below. What do you think about the starters playing up to the first half in the last preseason game? Do you think it's too much? Do you think it's too little? What are some of the things you want to see from an extended look at the starters out there on offense? Because we just haven't gotten to see it. Travis Simeon has looked great in there, but we want to see Justin Fields, the way that he works a half, I think is going to be big for a lot of people. It's going to be big for a lot of the national conversation around him as well. Then also let me know what you think about Larry Borom, Tevin Jenkins, and Matt Eberflus's comments on them and the fact that they seem to be the starters on that right side of the offensive line. Let me know all that down below. Again, thank you for always tuning in to Chicago Bears Central. Make sure you're following the show at Bears Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bears. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.